It's on live. All right. Says it's live now. We've got 3 minutes. Selection questions. Quitting. High performer. Coming last. Decisions. Failing. Oh, where are we? I probably should have. Sir, g'day, mates. At Sir Yeetith. Buckaroony, hey mate, from far north Queensland. Kia ora, bro. Good to see you. Hugo, hey bro. We'll give it a couple of minutes at 6:58 on here, so I thought I'd just jump in. Well, 6:59 now. Just scrolling through, looking at these questions, about 15, 16 or so of them. There we go. Oh, nice. I was SQMS Chook Squadron 1998 2001. Oh, appreciate you, bro. Okay, well, I'll try the phone. Let's see. Oh, no, it says you're live now. It says I'm back, and that warning has gone. Yeah, Christian, yeah, YouTube hates us. That must be the case. Bloody humbug. All right, anyway, thankfully discovered that I wasn't working, or that I was frozen before I got into anything. So I'll jump into this first one. So as I mentioned, some of the questions, the Chinese got them. Yeah, that made me laugh. Who said that? Rubber Kiwi. Anyway, to do with selection. So hopefully some tips or stuff here that maybe have helped. Here's one that's come up from a few people, and so there's been some people that have withdrawn themselves from selection in Australia and in NZ, in other selection courses, and they've had doubts and thoughts and stuff around that, and thinking that they shouldn't be ever thinking about quitting on selection. And they've asked for my thoughts, and I've had a conversation and stuff with them, essentially asking, what's my thoughts on that? Is that okay? I think it's just a part of what selection is, right? That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to, and it's trying to cause and plant seeds of doubt in your head. And it's intended to make you question whether or not you should be there, or whether or not you really want to be there. So as far as thinking about quitting goes, I personally, I think that's okay. Myself personally, and other people that I know, I don't personally recall ever thinking about quitting on selection, not on the New Zealand one, even as a young 20-year-old, not on the Australian selection. Like I understood I thought I understood how hard it was going to be. And I don't recall ever thinking about quitting. Does that mean that you should never think about quitting? I think for me, in my case, it was helpful that I didn't think that way. But I know 100% a number of people in both Australia and NZ that thought about quitting during selection. And there were times, one part in particular, I won't mention his name, in Australia, we were paired up together. We had to dig a shell scrape with our Cups canteen as one of the parts of the activities during the lucky dip phase. So that phase of the selection where you pretty much get very little to no sleep and no food for that last week. And he said, while we were together, man, I think I'm going to quit. And we were paired up. And I thought, well, I'm going to share one thing, or just try to encourage him once And then if he still carries on talking about it, then I was just going to write him off and not bother about talking to him anymore. So I just said, hey, don't worry about it. Just keep going. That was all I said. And then the conversation shifted. He asked me another question about something else, nothing to do with quitting, about my time in NZ. And that sort of shifted the conversation a little bit. Obviously, we were whispering. It would have been early hours in the morning. The directing staff was still floating around. So it wasn't a time to sort of have a social gathering, but it helped, I suppose, occupy his mind from where he was originally. Anyway, long story short, he went on, passed selection, he passed cycle. So we passed cycle together. He's gone on and had an awesome career. So I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking about quitting. And I think people that concern themselves with that are probably being a bit too harsh on themselves. Like selection is meant to cause you to doubt. It's meant to, make you question, like I said at the start. All that really matters, is what you do in that present moment. So acknowledging that, yep, maybe you're thinking about quitting, or maybe you thought about quitting on selection. Maybe you did actually quit on selection. If you choose to go back, that'll be one of the other questions later on, or part of this. If you choose to go back, hey, just acknowledge that that was a reality for the last time, if that's what happened, or that's a reality that could potentially happen for you. But choosing to not act on it is the key part if you want to still be there. Or maybe you strike up a conversation with somebody if you get an opportunity, and maybe one thing leads to the next, and you manage to distract yourself long enough that you carry on and get through it. So the essence of that, what I'm getting at, and in regards to this question, is it okay to think about quitting? I think it's okay to think about quitting. What's not okay, depending on how badly you want to be there, is acting on that thought. So if you're thinking about quitting, acknowledge it, all good, park it to the side, and just get through the next task, get through the next activity, get to the next checkpoint, get to the next whatever it is that you're supposed to do, and just complete that. So don't beat yourself up too much in regards to that. Putting on selection on the back end of this, with regards to, again, there's still people that seem to have it stuck in their head in both Australia and New Zealand. For whatever reason, don't get me wrong, some people may have been told by the directing staff, don't ever come back. Because you quit selection, you can never come back. Okay, if that's what you've been told, I've spoken about this before. Go away. If you still really want to be there, stick in an application again. What's the worst that can happen? Worst thing that can happen is that they say no. Or maybe your application goes through and you get another crack at it if you really want to be there. So that's my take on that. But don't be too hard on yourself, is what I would say with regards to quitting a selection. It's meant to be hard. There's plenty of people that have failed their first selection. There's plenty of people that quit during their first or second selection and went back, then eventually passed, and have gone on to have awesome careers in the unit. So just keep that in mind for those that fit into that category, or that may have experienced something like that. So that's my take for what it's worth. Next one, and this might tie in with that quitting aspect, but being a high performer in the unit. How important is that on selection in terms of your performance? Well, your performance on selection matters. There's no denying that. Do you need to be the first at everything, if that's what you're asking? And the conversations that I've had with people, do you need to be the first at everything? Do you need to be the best at everything? No. My experience is no. And that's a hard no, because because I was never the best or first at anything on selection. Not on selection, not on cycle. And there's a number of other people that, although better than me physically and soldier skills wise, they still didn't finish first in a number of things. And that's okay. So if you're a high performer in your unit, where this conversation actually led to with these people was the fact that they'd been so used to being or performing quite high before going on to selection. And then there's a bit of a reality check, for want of a better term, and they are no longer performing as high as what they have been accustomed to in their parent unit, whether that was infantry or whatever, corps or trade, engineers, whatever. And you know what? Selection again is designed that way to strip everybody back. And although you may be or may have been a high performer in your unit, um, you might still be a high performer on selection for aspects of it or for parts of it. Maybe you do come first and things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't beat yourself up again. Don't beat yourself up again if you're not coming first and everything. If you're not winning the way that you usually do in your parent unit, the unit doesn't care about that. Yes, your performance matters. They want you to perform well. They want you to listen. They want you to follow the instruction, do what's asked of you, etc. They want you to achieve the timings and the objectives based on what is required for the selection that you're doing. And if you can do that and stay in the fight and keep your head in the game and keep chipping away, carry on, do the next task, get to the next checkpoint, etc., then you give yourself a chance. That would be what I'm trying to get at. It doesn't guarantee that you'll still be there, but you give yourself a chance and you keep showing the directing staff that this is where you want to be and that it's, that you're not there to waste anybody's time. So if you're not performing to the standard that you are accustomed to in your parent unit, get over it, is what I would say. Bite the bullet, get over it. As long as if you haven't been removed from selection and if you haven't quit, and if you haven't broken anything so that you can still carry on and you're achieving the tasks, the objectives, the timings, then you're giving yourself a chance and keep performing and doing the best that you can. You're going to look ugly and it's going to look miserable, some of the things that you might do. But if it's still within the timings and if you're still meeting the requirements and you're still showing that resilience and that grit and that drive to be there, you're giving yourself a very good chance of hopefully not only completing selection, but more importantly, having an opportunity to be selected for further training. So going back to the first one, if you quit before you get there, well, then you've taken it out of the directing staff's hands and you don't give yourself a chance for either. You don't give yourself a chance to complete it. You don't give yourself a chance to get selected. So high performance, that's great, but it doesn't count for anything once you're on selection. So perform as well as you can, do the tasks to the required standards, timings, etc., and just stay in it to give yourself a chance. So it doesn't matter. There have been people that have been blank in hundreds club. So in NZ, I'm not sure if they had a hundreds club similar in Australia, but I remember that here because it was one of those things. It was something that I always wanted to do, but I never made it. Never made it to the hundreds club where they run like to be in the hundreds club at the time. I'm not sure what it is now, or if they even still have it. I think they do. You had to run a 2.4 in sub 8 minutes. You had to do something like 50 or 55 push-ups continuous. And at the time, it was just the sit-ups, whatever the sit-ups number was, 100 or 100 and something, wasn't much anyway. That was before pull-ups and bar dips came into it. I don't know if they ever did if they do hundreds club including pull-ups and bar dips. They didn't at the time when I was in battalion, but I could never crack the run. So never made the hundreds club, but there are plenty of people that were hundreds club and a lot A don't do selection because it's not what they wanted to do, and B who have selection but have still not gotten through, like have failed something else. They may not have failed that RFL, the run, the push-ups, the sit-ups, etc., but maybe they failed something in the pack march or the swim test or the webbing run or navigation, whatever. So you can be a rabbit, you can be super fit, fast, strong, and still fail selection. So yeah, that just linking that in, I suppose, in terms of the high performance piece, if you are a high performer in your unit. Where are we? This next one here. Oh yeah, and I think that ties in with this next one, coming last. What if I come last on selection? So what? If you haven't been removed from selection, if you haven't been pulled off and said, hey, go sit over here, and those that have made the time and are sitting on another side, or you don't know which is which, if you haven't been removed from the course, you give yourself a chance. But as soon as you remove yourself, you take it out of the directing staff's hands. You no longer force them to have to make a decision, and you make the decision yourself. And yeah, I don't recommend you do that, no matter how bad you might be feeling, no matter how bad it looks, especially if you want to be there. So if you want to be there, if you're coming dead last, it's not great. I'll be honest, it doesn't look great and it doesn't feel great when you're coming last. if I remember, I'll share a story about that from my time on cycle. But just if you really want to be there, just stay in it. That's all I can really. That's all I'd really repeat, and that it's because it links in with the other couple of questions so far and the discussion topics that I've had. It does not matter if you come last, if you have met the timing or you're meeting the requirements of whatever you've been asked to do. If you're still there and you've come last, so what? Okay, keep your head up, do as well as you can, make sure your kit is squared away, check in and report and communicate the way that you're supposed to, carry yourself the way that you need to, and then just get ready for the next task, for the next lot of instruction, and crack on with the work. Now, as far as coming last, mine's a little bit different. I don't recall, although I may have, I don't recall coming last, like dead last on anything on selection, but on cycle I definitely did an NZ anyway. I think it might have been either the demolitions course or the patrol procedures course. For some reason, I think it's the demolitions course. We're in why I'm going to meet the requirements. So yeah, those work hand in hand. And there's a lot of debates, it's more mental than physical. My take, it's yeah, there is a lot of mental aspect to it, but it all works hand in hand, man. You have to, you can be real strong physically and go, yeah, I'm not going to quit, and go through the navigation legs, open country, close country. But if you are not meeting the timing because your fitness is just caca, well, then you're not going to carry on. So you won't get through. Looks like that thing is gone, so I'll crack on. What I was talking about, the guys, he was a sergeant at the time, the guy that went on to be an RSM, but he took us for a run. We were running back from, I think it was Waiuru. Oh, this bloody thing's coming up again. Anyway, and carry on. Running to a place called Helwan Camp. Some other stuff before then. And yeah, we went on a bit of a run around the place, and then we run back to camp. Well, anyway, long story short, I come dead last. I was at the back. I was struggling running wise, and it's not because I was unfit. Like, I was still pretty fit on the cycle. I just wasn't as fit as happy to come along and get some extra PT for themselves as well. But at the same time, they were supporting me. Wouldn't have mattered if they came with me or not. I was going to go do some extra runs anyway. But all of that stuff, all it did was it'll drive you to pick up your game and do more. And outside is the comfortable hours of when we might want to do things, or you'll just cruise along and think that it's okay, and that go and put the work in the nav, like get through that part. And then the passing is if you've been selected for further training or to go onto the cycle of training. So failing the first time, again, same message, don't beat yourself up about it. It would be difficult and it would suck, I have no doubt. Excuse me. People going back to their parent unit, and I think people that I know that I've spoken with, they feel a level of embarrassment, they feel a level of shame, and from my perspective, I don't think they have anything to be embarrassed or ashamed to go on selection, to lean into that uncertainty and to risk failing and to risk the hurt that comes. But others, I think for the most part, from what I've heard, when people have asked people that I know that have failed selection, they usually just ask them, or they're just curious, what part of selection did you quit, or when did you fail, or was it Lucky Dip, was it Happy Wanderer in Australia, was it the dunes, was it the navigation in NZ, whatever. But for the person that may have failed, whatever that is, whether you were withdrawn by the directing staff or whether you quit yourself, just take stock of that and be honest with yourself, because we can spin ourselves all sorts of yarns around, it was the staff, it's there's people including myself in Australia, we cramped up really bad. I had heaps of the white salt and stuff, especially after the 3.2, and I cramped up on one of the navigation pieces just to get onto the selection. And I'd only done just the bare minimum to be able to get a chance to get on selection, thankfully. But yeah, there's plenty of excuses that people will make or use. I sweat a lot.